Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you're listening to this, you've probably seen a press release from some tech giant, right? Announcing that they're building a new, quote unquote, human-centric AI.
Oh, yeah, those are always, they always sound so magical.
Right. They conjure up this image of a system that's just, perfectly tailored, super intuitive, like it's just going to seamlessly integrate into your life.
Yeah. But anyone who's actually been in the room trying to design one of those systems knows the truth.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it usually devolves into this chaotic cage match.
Yeah.
Just conflicting priorities everywhere.
A total cage match, yeah. You've got like a dozen people pulling the project in totally different directions.
And without a strict plan, you either get a product that completely ignores the user or, it tries to please everyone and just fails entirely.
Which is really the open secret of the tech industry right now. Like, everyone wants their AI to be human-centric, but very few teams actually have a rigorous, repeatable methodology for doing it.
They just think, hey, let's gather a focus group. That's enough.
Right. And it's really, really not.
No. Which is exactly why we are taking this deep dive today. We're on a mission to demystify how you actually build human-centric AI without all that chaos.
It's such an important topic.
It really is. And to do that, we are pulling from this really fascinating set of sources today. It's a suite, of course, materials, study guides, and presentation slides from the University of Groningen.
Yeah, specifically their modules on designing human-centric AI systems with co-creative practices.
Right, put together by Dr. S. Washil, M.Sc. J. Zortatelli, and Dr. C. Manuelides.
And I have to say, the framework they lay out is just phenomenal. They move way past the usual buzzwords.
It's a corporate jargon.
Yeah, exactly. They provide this exact, almost mechanical architecture for running design sessions, like detailing everything from the psychology of the planning phase all the way to a massive real-world healthcare case study.
Okay, let's unpack this because before we get into their exact blueprint, we really have to look at the history here.
Oh, for sure. The context is crucial.
Right, because if we don't understand why the old ways of building software failed, this new methodology just looks like, I don't know, extra paperwork.
Yeah, and looking at the evolution of software design is incredibly telling. The source materials actually break this down into 3 distinct eras.
Oh, right. Starting with early user involvement, I think it was called.
Yes, the classic waterfall approach. So developers would sit down with the users on day 1, right? Just ask them to list their requirements.
It's like a wish list.
Exactly, a bulleted list. They write those down and then basically retreat into a cave for 6 months to build the thing.
And let me guess, they emerge from the cave holding the software, and the users just look at it and say, this isn't what we wanted at all.
That was the standard outcome, yeah. It bred intense user resistance and, frankly, massive developer overconfidence.
Because the developers genuinely thought they understood the problem, right?
Right. But a bulleted list of requirements completely misses the messy, unofficial realities of an actual workflow. So the industry shifted into the second era, which was participatory design.
Okay, so bringing the users in a bit more.
Yeah, users were brought in as active collaborators throughout the build, which was a huge step in the right direction.
But still not enough for something as complex as AI, I assume.
Precisely, because AI isn't just a static database, It adapts, it makes autonomous decisions.
Right, it fundamentally changes the cognitive load of the person doing the job.
And exactly. Which brings us to our current era, modern co-creation. This methodology emphasizes incredibly diverse perspectives, strict alignment, and a relentless focus on supporting the human in the loop.
Human in the loop, right? Because the AI's role keeps evolving.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. I mean, doing it the old way is essentially like a company hiring a brand new senior manager without letting the actual team interview them first.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like you can read a resume, but until you see how that person meshes with the daily workflow, you have no idea if they're going to help the team or just destroy morale.
Yeah, you really don't.
So co-creation is basically having the team conduct the interview and define the role together. But let me push back for a second here.
Sure, go for it.
Because if you're sitting there listening to this, you might be thinking, hey, we have AI developers who know exactly what neural networks can and cannot do. Why not just let the technical experts lead the charge?
It's a common question, yeah.
Like, why go through the massive headache of bringing everybody else into the room?
Well, what's fascinating here is that if you leave it strictly to the technical experts, you pretty much guarantee a failure of operational reality.
Wait, really? Guarantee a failure?
Pretty much. The source material maps out why you absolutely need this massive diversity of stakeholder roles colliding in these sessions. Yes, your AI developers handle the tech,
Right, the coding and data.
but they need to be challenged by domain experts, the people on the ground, to ensure the AI actually solves a real problem.
The people doing the actual heavy lifting every single day.
Exactly, and it doesn't stop there. You must bring in ethics and compliance experts, too.
Oh, interesting. Not just for, like, good PR.
No, not as a philosophical exercise at all, for hard regulatory reasons. They ensure fairness, transparency, and legal compliance, which is, non-negotiable in sectors like healthcare.
Right, absolutely.
You also need end users for practical validation and policy advisors for data privacy laws. An AI developer might write brilliant code, but they don't necessarily know the legal tripwires of patient data.
Or the stress points of a nurse trying to read a chart during an emergency. Yeah.
Exactly. Co-creation forces all those realities to intersect early. And when you do that, the benefits are undeniable. You get highly original solutions, better inclusivity, and crucially, you earn the trust of the people who will actually use the system.
All right, I'm sold on the why. We need the developers, the domain experts, the compliance folks, everyone.
Everyone at the table.
But I mean, if I just send a blind calendar invite to 15 different experts, put them in a conference room and say, go design a human-centric AI.
It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, a total disaster. The data scientist will be speaking in math, the nurse will be speaking in patient outcomes, and the legal advisor will just be sitting there saying no to everything.
Absolutely. So, how do we prevent that? You need a highly structured preparation phase.
Okay.
The Groningen materials actually lay out a strict 6-step process for planning a co-creation session before anyone even enters the room.
6 steps just for the planning.
Yes. You have to define your goals, review your knowledge base to prepare what they call seeds, select the precise participants, decide on the format, physical or digital plan, the structural timing, and finally, finalize the agenda with assigned roles.
Okay, I want to zoom in on the friction points there rather than just, reading down a list.
Sure.
Take participant selection, for example. I imagine it's incredibly easy to invite the obvious people, but completely forget the crucial edge cases.
Oh, that happens constantly. Teams invite the flashy roles, like the lead developer or the head doctor, but they forget to invite the IT administrator.
The person who actually has to plug the thing in.
Exactly. The person who has to integrate this shiny new AI into a legacy hospital server from, 2012.
Oh, wow, yeah. If that person isn't in the room, you might design this beautiful system that is just technically impossible to deploy.
Precisely.
Okay, so we curate the invite list perfectly. But the concept I really want to unpack is step 2. Seeding.
Ah, yes, seeding.
Because this comes up constantly in the source modules. What exactly is a seed, and how does it actually stop the communication breakdown?
Seeding is arguably the most critical part of the entire framework. A seed is basically the structured input material you bring into the session to guide the conversation.
So, like what? A document?
It could be a workflow diagram, a summary of previous interviews, an early prototype, even just survey results. It is the raw material that participants react to.
Wait. If we prepare all this highly structured material beforehand, just hand it to the participants, aren't we just leading the witness?
I see what you mean.
Doesn't seeding completely kill organic brainstorming? Like, if I walk into a room and you hand me a document that already outlines the assumed problem, human nature says, I'm just going to nod along.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, seeding actually cures a much worse disease, and that is blank whiteboard paralysis.
Oh, man. I knew that feeling intimately.
We all do, right?
Yeah. Everyone's just staring at a blank wall, terrified to throw out the first idea, just waiting for someone else to sound smart.
It is agonizing. And it's even worse in a diverse group, because remember, that developer and that hospital administrator don't even share the same professional vocabulary yet.
Right. They're speaking different languages.
Exactly. So if you start with a totally open-ended question, they have no anchor. The seeds provide that shared anchor. It gives them something concrete to critique or tear apart or build upon.
So it's better to give them something to disagree with than nothing at all.
Yes. And the material is very explicit here. If you don't have existing seeds, you cannot skip the step.
You have to make them.
Yes. You must generate them by running preparatory surveys or one-on-one interviews to establish a baseline before the clock even starts on the group session.
Okay, so the seeds are planted, the attendees are aligned, the calendar invites are accepted, we've got our blueprint. Now we have to actually herd these cats.
The tricky part.
Yeah, how do we facilitate the session itself So the loud voices don't just, dominate the entire room.
Well, the first major decision is format. And you absolutely cannot just default to a Zoom call out of laziness.
Guilty as charged.
Right. We all do it. But the format dictates the psychology of the room. If your goal is rapid, divergent idea generation and fast consensus, the material recommends a virtual synchronous format.
So everyone online at the exact same time.
Right. Using collaborative tools like draw.io to map out workflows together while on a live call.
But what if you have a team spread across the globe? Or, what if you have introverted experts who need time to actually process complex data before speaking up?
That is a great point. In that case, you pivot to a virtual asynchronous format. You give them a tool like a Miro board and let them add their thoughts over, say, a 48-hour window.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's incredible for deep, reflective review, and it ensures the quietest voices in the room actually get heard.
I have to assume physical in-person meetings still hold some value, right?
Right.
Like, we haven't totally abandoned the conference room.
Oh, without question. In-person is still the gold standard for sensitive discussions where you really need to read body language.
That makes sense.
Or for highly spatial, complex activities using physical flip charts and sticky notes to physically move ideas around a room.
Yeah.
And of course, hybrid formats can kind of balance these approaches if needed.
Okay, so regardless of whether we are in a boardroom with sticky notes or on a Miro board, how does the actual conversation flow?
So the framework details a strict two-phase facilitation approach. Phase 1 is all about exploring. You always start with a warm-up to build trust. You introduce your seeds, and then you push the group to generate a massive volume of ideas without any judgment or criticism.
Just throw it all at the wall.
Exactly. And the secret weapon here is strict time boxing. You give them exactly 10 minutes to exhaust their brains.
10 minutes? Wow, that's fast.
It creates urgency. Then you deliberately shift the energy into phase 2, which is select and shape.
This is where we converge.
Yes! You cluster those wild ideas into themes, you refine them, and you force the group to prioritize. The sources highlight techniques like dot voting or impact versus effort matrices.
Okay, just to make sure we're all visualizing this properly. An impact versus effort matrix is where you literally draw a big grid, right?
Yep.
And on one axis, you have how much effort will this take to build? And on the other, how much positive impact will it have? And you map the ideas onto that grid to find the quick wins, right?
That is spot on, yeah. And dot voting is where you give every participant, say, 3 physical red stickers, and they have to stick them on their top priorities.
So they can't just say everything is important.
Exactly. It forces people to budget their enthusiasm.
Honestly, it sounds like the facilitator has to be a DJ.
A DJ, I like that.
Think about it. You have to aggressively read the room. You start with a warm-up track to get people comfortable. Then you time box the high-energy brainstorming to keep the BPM up, right?
Right, getting the energy going.
But you can't maintain that frenetic pace forever, so you have to know the exact moment to bring the tempo down, cool the room off, and ask them to carefully place their red stickers and map out their matrices. Like, you have to manage the fatigue of the crowd.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it. And, just like a live DJ, a facilitator must be endlessly prepared for the equipment to fail or the crowd to hate the song.
So true.
The source material emphasizes that you must assume participants will arrive with varying levels of knowledge because they have competing daily jobs.
They're distracted.
Right, so you have to prioritize the quality of the consensus over simply rushing through your agenda. And critically, you need a plan B, C, and D ready to go if the Miro board crashes, or a particular mapping exercise just falls flat.
All right, so the session ends, the DJ played a great set, the energy is fantastic, and everyone goes back to their desks feeling accomplished.
A successful session.
But according to the deep dive into the materials, this exact moment, like the hour after the meeting, is the danger zone where most projects completely fall apart.
It really is. It's where the illusion of progress shatters. The framework focuses heavily on something called prompt processing.
Prompt processing?
Yes, you must digitize and synthesize your raw results immediately, while the nuances of the discussion are still fresh in your mind.
Okay, let me be the voice of the lazy employee here.
Uh-oh.
Why can't I just take a high-resolution picture of the physical whiteboard, drop it into a Slack channel type, great brainstorm team, and call it a day? Like, why do I need to write a massive synthesis report?
Well, this raises an important question. Consider the alternative. Think about what a whiteboard actually looks like after a 2-hour intense design session.
A mess.
It is completely chaotic. It's full of shorthand, half-erased circles, arrows pointing to nowhere, and inside jokes that only made sense in the heat of the moment.
True.
If you just post a raw photo, the context dies the exact second the meeting ends. Within 3 days, no one will remember what that blue Post-it note with a question mark on it meant.
The context decay is real.
It is fatal. Prompt processing means looking at that photo immediately and translating it into actual insights. And it often requires early follow-up.
Like reaching back out to people.
Yeah, you have to message the participants that same afternoon to clarify messy notes before they forget what they meant.
Oh, that's intense.
Furthermore, the material dictates that the final report isn't just meeting minutes. It must detail the methods used, the seeds you started with, the synthesized outputs, and an evaluation of the session itself.
An evaluation.
Yes, you send out immediate feedback surveys to find out if your facilitation actually worked or if people felt unheard.
And the big payoff for all this administrative hustle is what they call the seed cycle, right? The refined, synthesized outputs from today's session literally become the seeds you hand out at the beginning of the next session.
Exactly. It's an unbroken chain of evolving context. Every phase builds on the synthesis of the last. Without it, you are just starting from scratch every single time.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the theory, the psychology, and the structure. I want to see the proof.
The proof is in the pudding.
Right. Because all of this preparation and synthesis sounds great, but does it survive contact with reality? The sources highlight a massive, real-world application, the Humane Project. Specifically, their smart healthcare diabetes pilot.
This case study perfectly validates the entire framework. It was a comprehensive 36-month overall project, and they dedicated a huge stretch of it, from month 3 to month 24, purely to co-creation.
Wow, almost 2 years.
Yeah, running parallel to the AI development.
Walk us through how they actually executed this blueprint. I know they started phase 1 by focusing heavily on definition and design.
They did, and they used multiple formats to get there. They started with an in-person workshop, literally using flip charts to physically map out current healthcare workflows.
Okay.
And they debated which decisions a human should make versus which decisions an AI could assist with.
But they didn't let the context die on the flip chart.
Never. 2 weeks later, they transferred all of that physical data into a virtual asynchronous workshop using digitized Miro boards.
Ah, so bridging the formats.
Yes. They even provided a user manual so the medical professionals knew exactly how to navigate the software on their own time. This allowed the doctors and nurses to deep dive into the workflows between their shifts.
That's brilliant.
Then finally, they brought everyone back together for a virtual synchronous session to lock in those decisions and tie them to specific user stories.
So they went from physical seeds to asynchronous digital clustering, all the way to live, synchronous alignment. That's a journey.
It is. Then they moved into phase 2, which was early development and testing. Here, they did a gap analysis of what they learned in phase 1 and shifted their focus to mapping key performance indicators and real-world operational risks.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because of this relentless co-creation, they hit a massive realization, didn't they?
Oh, huge. They discovered that some of the technical AI components they had confidently planned for were actually completely unfeasible in a real-world healthcare setting.
Okay, to make this concrete for you listening, imagine an AI designed to predict real-time insulin dosing. The developers might have assumed the hospital's network could feed them patient lab data instantly.
Right, an easy assumption for a tech person.
But through co-creation, the IT experts on the ground point out that their legacy system only batches that data every 6 hours. Or the nurses point out that they legally cannot execute a black box AI dosage suggestion without seeing the trend line themselves.
And if the developers had stayed in their cave for 6 months, they would have built a brilliant, mathematically perfect algorithm that was entirely useless on the hospital floor.
But because they followed the blueprint, the system worked. They caught the fatal flaw. Before they wrote the majority of the code, they actually adjusted the scope of the pilot to match the gritty reality of the hospital.
Yes, co-creation literally saved them from a multi-million-dollar disaster. It forces you to build the right thing rather than building the wrong thing perfectly.
Building the wrong thing perfectly. I love that. So if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, remember this. Human-centric AI isn't born from a single chaotic brainstorming meeting.
Definitely not.
It requires a highly structured, rigorous cycle. You must seed the environment to cure the blank whiteboard. You must facilitate like a DJ to manage the room's energy.
Sure.
You absolutely must synthesize the messy outputs immediately before the context decays. And you use those insights to reseed the next phase.
That is the formula.
And for you listening, Think about the very next big project on your desk. It doesn't even have to be AI. It could be overhauling a complex team workflow. I challenge you to try applying just the seeding concept beforehand.
Just that one step makes a difference.
Send out the raw materials to anchor the conversation, and then commit to immediately synthesizing the outputs the exact day the meeting ends. You will be astounded by the clarity it brings to your team.
To take that a step further, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Oh, let's hear it.
So the Humane case study proved how powerful co-creation is during the development phase. But we are rapidly moving into an era where AI systems are becoming incredibly adaptive and autonomous after they are deployed.
Oh, right. Because they keep learning.
Exactly. They learn, they shift, and they change their behavior based on live daily data. So the question we have to start asking ourselves right now is, how do we design frameworks for continuous co-creation?
Continuous. Wow.
Yeah. How do we build systems where the human worker and the AI continue to co-design their shared workflow in real time, months or years after the product has left the factory?
It's the ultimate moving target. Like, how do you keep adjusting the blueprints when the house is already built and the house itself is learning?
It really is the next great frontier for designers.
Well, that is a puzzle we will have to unpack on another day. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.